everyone. Thank you so much for joining me for this webinar about dairy. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Anastasia. I'm the owner of VegShe, and for those of you who are returning, welcome back. It's always wonderful to have you here. So I'm going to go ahead and jump right into this presentation, and at the end of the PowerPoint, we're going to have a quick Q&A where I can answer any questions you might have. So let me go ahead and share my screen with you. I'm going to begin this presentation. If you have any trouble seeing it, just drop a note into the chat and I will try and fix it for you. So as I said before, today we're going to be talking about dairy, and the name of today's presentation is Be Wary of Dairy. So before I jump into this, a little bit about me. Like I said, my name is Anastasia. I have a Bachelor's of Science degree. I'm a certified personal trainer, certified nutrition coach, and group fitness instructor. I am a vegan, and I haven't always been a vegan. I used to be a carnivore, or I guess it was more of an omnivore, but I did eat a lot of meat before I went vegan, so I know what that's like. I have two crazy dogs who I love very, very much. They're like my kids. And if I had to pick a favorite plant-based milk, I would say that oat is my number one right now. I think it's definitely the closest at matching like the creaminess that you need to make like a good, to bake or to make a good latte. So that's a little bit about me. So let's jump right into this. Where does our milk come from? And I think this might seem like a silly question because I think we all know for the most part in the United States it comes from cows, but there's a whole lot more to unpack there. So in order for cows to produce milk, they need to be pregnant. And I think that probably seems really obvious to adults, but I think as kids, that's just not something that we're familiar with. That concept doesn't necessarily connect for us. And so I think, at least for me as a kid, I was like, oh, cows just make milk. It didn't occur to me that they needed to be pregnant to make milk, which makes sense to me now as an adult. But as a kid, I was like, that's what cows do. So now that we can get a better understanding of how that works, it might make a little more sense as to like why we're discussing the issues around the dairy industry. So like I said, in order for cows to produce milk, they need to be pregnant. So in factory farms across the country, cows are repeatedly artificially inseminated. Once they have given birth, their calf is taken away from them. And then the mother cow is connected to an AMS, which is an automatic milking machine. Unfortunately, the goal is to create as much milk for consumers as possible, and so she's automatically hooked up and she's milked in order to create dairy products for consumers. And her calf, which has been taken away from her, she'll never see it again, and it's either going to be raised to be killed for veal or other beef products. So as you can imagine, this is a very traumatic experience. As we know, just like the way you connect with your pets, animals have feelings and they can experience trauma just the way that humans can. So I think I would imagine the experience of giving birth and then having your baby taken from you right away and having this done repeatedly could be very damaging. So this process is going to continue for that female cow until she can either no longer get pregnant or produce enough milk to be profitable. When that occurs, she will be killed. I think another thing to note, that just pertaining to the way the animals are treated, cows that are used for meat and dairy are treated with hormones and other drugs to improve their value. So in other words, beef cows are growing larger than ever before and dairy cows are producing more milk. Making changes to these animals' growth can result in major health issues for them. And we'll get into this a little bit later, but could potentially have an effect on human health as well, because if they're being pumped with hormones and antibiotics and things like that, that's passing on into our systems when we consume these products. So it's definitely an issue for both the health of the animal and the consumer. How does this affect the planet? So in addition to the suffering that the cows experience, dairy production is not sustainable for the environment. I've got some facts and figures here that might be sort of surprising. I know they were surprising to me the first time I read them. So animal agriculture as a whole uses up 45% of the land on Earth. That's nearly half of the land on Earth dedicated just to animal agriculture. In order to produce a gallon of milk, the production requires 1,000 gallons of water. And I'm not a mathematician, but I do feel like that trade-off doesn't seem right. It doesn't equate for me. So 1,000 gallons of water to produce a gallon of milk. Cows produce 150 billion gallons of methane a day, which, as you can imagine, is contributing to global warming. If we were to decrease the demand for dairy and beef products, cows would not be bred excessively, and in turn, the population of cows on Earth, along with their carbon hoofprint, could normalize. So we all are familiar with global warming and what's happening with our planet, and if making the switch to plant-based milks and cheeses is going to help with the dire situation our planet's in, then I feel like it's personally worth it, but I'm definitely going to leave that to you to decide if you feel like it's still worth it to have that slice of cheese. So moving on from the environment, how does dairy affect the human body? So dairy can be not only addictive, but very inflammatory. Dairy is highly addictive because it contains casein, which is a protein that is made up of casomorphins. Casomorphins are opiate-like compounds that trigger endorphins in the brain, which cause you to get cheese high or dairy high. In addition to being addictive, it's very inflammatory. So this inflammation can be found in adipose tissue, which is basically body fat, as well as your digestive tract. And because we have adipose tissue all throughout our body, even in our bones, this inflammation can lead to discomfort in joints and breast tissue. Dairy products are very high in saturated fats, and according to gastroenterologist Dr. Sadeghi, studies have shown that saturated fats cause the breakdown of tight junctions between the gut cells that create leaky gut, which leads to other systemic and inflammation and other problems. So the irritation that dairy causes to our digestive system can lead to long-term problems such as leaky gut, ulcers, and even certain cancers. Dr. Greger writes about the correlations between dairy consumption and cancer risk. Because dairy contains sex hormones and growth hormones, they have the potential to promote the growth or mutation of existing tumors or cells in the body. In other words, dairy has the potential to cause cancer. Cow's milk is meant to keep a 60-pound baby calf, or it's meant to help a 60-pound baby calf grow into an adult weighing up to 2,400 pounds. So we're trying to take a baby cow at 60 pounds and try to get it to nearly 2,000 pounds. And the amount of growth hormones needed to help that cow reach adulthood is astronomical. And so this begs the question, what are those hormones doing to your body? Because I imagine we're not trying to get from 60 pounds to 2,400 pounds anytime soon. I don't think that's the goal. And so you have to wonder, what are the side effects of taking in that much growth hormone, especially when we're already grown, if we're talking about adults, right? What do we need growth hormone for once we're already grown? So that seems a little strange. The next aspect that I wanted to talk about was the financial cost of dairy. So the United States government provides huge subsidies for the animal agriculture industry, and because of these subsidies, the true cost of these products is hidden from the consumer. For example, in 2020, the cost of a $5 Big Mac would actually be closer to $13, but the price is offset because of government subsidies. These subsidies cost U.S. taxpayers $414 billion a year. So not only are we paying for this with our taxes, we're paying for this with our health and with the health of the planet. So with all of that in mind, what can you do to make a difference? Save lives, go dairy-free. I know it sounds challenging. I know, especially with clients who approach me saying that they would be interested in going vegan, but they're not sure that they can give up cheese because they're addicted. I have a few recommendations that I can make that will hopefully make the process a little bit easier for you. So the first thing you can do is make a list of the products you eat and drink regularly that contain dairy. So just in a week, write down the stuff that you eat that might have dairy and check the packages on the food you've been eating. You'd be amazed how much milk is just sort of sneaking into our products. slowly start researching, trying, and replacing those products with dairy-free alternatives. So take one thing off the list each week and try an alternative and see if you find something that you like just as much or maybe like more. One thing I want you to remember that I think really can be a deterrent for people, just like there are crappy dairy products, there can be pretty awful dairy-free products as well. So don't let the first product that you try scare you away from the concept of dairy-free. There are definitely some awful cheese and non-cheese brands out there, and I worry about people who try something for the first time and just assume that that is the representation of what all non-dairy products are like. So definitely have an open mind, try a few different things before you find the thing that you like. My go-to brand for artisanal cheeses is Miyoko's, and my everyday sandwich cheese is from a brand called Violife, and I really like their sharp cheddar. So there's definitely stuff out there. I'd be happy to make recommendations if you want to drop some questions in the comments or want to include them in the Q&A after this. I'd be happy to tell you some other favorite brands of mine and maybe some to stay away from. So in conclusion, let's leave cow's milk off the menu. There are a lot of wonderful alternatives such as soy, almond, pea, oat, and so much more. And if you're feeling like you need a little help eliminating dairy from your diet, reach out to me. I'm a certified nutrition coach. I'm a vegan. I'd be happy to help set you up with a plan to decrease your dairy intake or eliminate it altogether. I'm happy to set up a free consultation with you to try and hash out what it is that you feel like you need to do to reach your goals. So I have included some resources here. The first link, if you want to schedule a consultation with me. The second one is to watch the film Cowspiracy. It's a deep dive into basically the cow industry and how it's affecting our planet. And as far as milk alternatives go, like I said, oat milk is my favorite. Oatly is a brand that I really like. Not milk is an interesting plant-based protein, and it's really good for baking, and their whole milk version is really creamy. It's pretty impressive. Califia is another good option, or you can make your own. So I have a device in my kitchen that I use to make soy milk and things like that, and I've linked that here. And sometimes it's more affordable and eco-friendly. You create less waste if you make your own. So that is what I have for you today. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen. And I'm going to stop the recording to answer any questions that you guys have, just to keep those private. And for those of you who are watching the recording now, if you have any questions, again, just drop them in the comments below. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel, and I look forward to having you all at another webinar soon. Thank you so much, everyone.